at the time for delivery of the statement will be scheduled to speak at the end of all statements of the same category. Allow me to also remind you of the COVID-19 protocols to ensure the health and safety of all participants. In accordance with the UNFCCC COP26 COVID-19 Code of Conduct, participants must wear face covering except when eating, drinking, sitting in office, meetings, sitting in to perform negotiation or are medically exempt. United Nations guidance and practice recommend face covering to be a surgical or FFP2. Delegates should wear face mask while seated where social distancing is not possible. As part of the hygiene measures to ensure a safe environment of all participants, statements will be delivered from alternate restrooms. Dear distinguished head of state and government, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, let us begin. It is my pleasure to welcome Her Excellency, Mrs. Maya Amor Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. It is my honor to present the national statement of Barbados at this COP26. Barbados sees its obligation to address climate crisis as securing the future for our citizens and also to secure our safety from the development of a severe crisis, while at the same time we will work with others globally to ensure that we can mitigate all of the worst effects of the climate crisis facing our country and our citizens. In fulfillment of our obligations, my country has submitted to UNFCCC one of the most ambitious and action-oriented 2021 NDC updates. We hope and believe we can secure the target of pathway of 1.5 degrees within the promise of the Paris Agreement. Domestically, we will become and hope to reduce all emissions economy-wide by 70% by 2030 and as close to zero by 2035. Barbados' NDC sets an economy-wide mitigation contribution, which is mirrored in our Roofs to Reefs program, which we see as our major adaptation program. It is a multi-sectoral program across water, waste, agriculture, energy, housing, and transport. And we see it as part of a strategic transformation to adapt in the event that the world does not meet 1.5 degrees. It can be used as well as a development model for all developing countries, and we are prepared to work with all persons to improve it and to perfect it because we do not believe that we are omniscient in these matters. Barbados is also meeting its obligation to its citizens and to the citizens of the world and indeed to the planet on which we live. We call on all countries to act on their moral obligation and by their actions to stop condemning those of us who live between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn to the dystopian reality of the climate crisis. Disaster, refugee status, poverty, truncated development, compromised livelihoods, and most of all, regrettably, jeopardized lives. We have completed just recently the hosting of UNCTAD 15. Two key documents were settled: the Bridgetown Covenant and the Political Declaration, The Spirit of Speightstown. In them, much of our aspirations are captured. We now call on the wider international community, particularly those whose high emissions are the cause of the climate crisis, to do the following. One, to help us and them move, as we know, to green economies, to allow preferential access to grants and loans for small island developing states and those other countries on the front line of the climate crisis on the basis of their vulnerability and not on the basis of GDP per capita. We ask equally that there is an increased level of capital for adaptation and that we adhere to a 50-50 split with mitigation, which is absolutely urgent because those small island developing states need it to augment water resources, to convert our electricity and our transport sector, and to promote food and nutritional security if we are literally to survive the increase in temperature. We ask also that the world consider the adoption of a multidimensional vulnerability index that is reflective of the risk and vulnerability caused by the climate-induced whiteout risk and events that we face. We've been calling for this for over 3 decades and are yet to see it. But at the very least, if we don't get the index, we ask for criteria to include vulnerability. We also ask that there be a voluntary allocation of special drawing rights of the world's strongest economies in order to move forward to create a resilience and sustainability trust. My friends, the action is required now, not in the next decade. And in the words of Michael Jackson, it is up to us to heal the world and to make the world a better place. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency, Mr. Alexander De Croo, Prime Minister of Belgium. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, climate change has arrived, and it has arrived with a vengeance. Firestorms that rage through our forests, heat waves that kill our crops and vaporize our drinking water supplies, the floods in our villages, the 41 people who died in such floods in my country last July, the first Belgian citizens who fell victim to climate change. Other countries and other continents already paid a much higher price. But for us, that was something far away, something on TV. Not anymore. Climate change is hitting home also in Europe. The report by the International Panel on Climate Change makes for a very sobering read indeed. The increase in carbon dioxide concentration and the increase in global temperature are unprecedented. The report leaves us with one conclusion only. We need a rapid and large-scale reduction of CO2 emissions to bring the 1.5 degrees goal within reach. There is no time to lose. We are behind schedule and we need to pick up the pace. So we need to do more, and it needs to happen here in Glasgow. We simply cannot afford not to act. We simply cannot lean back and wait for the next flood, the next heat wave, the next forest fire to kill and destroy. That is why Belgium and the European Union are undertaking action. What is Belgium doing? We are investing to remain one of the world's leading producers of offshore wind energy. We will triple our offshore capacity by the end of the decade. That will cover the electricity needs of every single household in my country. We will build an energy island to connect our offshore sites, a giant socket linking renewable energy production around the North Sea. We have the clear ambition to become one of the most important hubs in clean hydrogen supply. To strengthen the resilience of the most fragile countries, we are increasing our contribution to international climate finance with 60%. And we will contribute with €200 million to the fight against deforestation. With the Green Deal, the European Union intends to be climate neutral by 2050 and to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. Europe has a historic responsibility regarding climate change. That is why we take the lead. But we are not the only ones to shoulder that responsibility. The other major economies should urgently take equivalent action, join Europe's ambitions. They should not do so for their own benefits, because sustainability is not only a matter of saving lives, it is also about protecting livelihoods, about building a new economy, creating new jobs, reconnecting with green economic growth. leveraging the innovative strengths of our companies for a more sustainable future. Otherwise, we will not get back on track to what we agreed in Paris. Now, the world is full of talent to make that happen. There are plenty of bright minds who are working on the climate solutions as we speak, in our world-class universities, in our forward-looking companies. Young people working from the garage of their parents will come up with climate solutions we're not even aware of today. We need to help people and companies to make this transition. And we need to ensure that this new economy is inclusive as well, making sure that everyone is on board. The climate transition is not only something for rich people in rich countries, because then we will fail. So everyone needs to be part of the change. That sustainable technologies are affordable, that the energy bill goes down thanks to renewables, that women and men have the right skills for new green jobs. We can do this. Europe can do this. The world can do this. We either overcome the climate crisis together or we do not overcome it at all. Ladies and gentlemen, there has been plenty of time for long speeches and lofty ambitions. Now it is time for action, starting today. This is not just another perfunctory summit we routinely attend. We are here out of sheer necessity and urgency. It's all hands on deck now to do the job for which we were elected or appointed, to keep our people safe from harm, the very first task of any government, whatever its constitutional or political setup, to make our societies prosper, to make our economies reconnect with growth that is sustainable. We can still reach the Paris objectives. We have the scientific analysis. We have the technological solutions at hand. We are raising the money we need. We have the talent that is coming up with innovative answers as we speak. This is a challenge where young women and men lead the way. Now, we need to muster political will. That's why we are here. The Glasgow conference is about political will. It is about the long-term perspective which requires action now. About making climate transition happen while no one is left behind, so that we come out stronger, more resilient. The world has come together here in Glasgow. Let us find that willpower and start to turn the tide. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is my pleasure to welcome His Excellency Mr. Philippe Pierre, Prime Minister of St. Lucia. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Mr. President, I join in commending you for hosting this momentous convergence